Recommendation that the agenda for the regular council meeting of March 9th, 2015 be adopted as circulated. Moved. Seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Item 3A, a recommendation that the minutes of the special council meeting of February 23rd, 2015 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Radhawa, seconded by Councillor Niche. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Item 3B, recommendation that minutes of regular council meeting of February 23rd, 2015 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Kinney, seconded by Councillor Radhawa. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. And item 3C, a recommendation that the minutes of the Committee of the Whole of February 23rd, 2015 be received. Moved by Councillor Cunningham, seconded by Councillor Niche. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, item 4A, presentation from Chief Financial Officer regarding the 2015 budget.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Staff presented the 2015 municipal budget on February 23rd. This presentation is a snapshot of that presentation for the benefit of Council and the viewing public for the purpose of engagement at this Council meeting and again on March 23rd at Council Chambers. Our budget expects a shortfall of $220,000. This is made up of wage increases due to collective agreements and predicted energy increases. To balance the budget will require a mill rate increase of 1.9%. Here is the allocation of tax revenue to services budgeted for 2015. The largest are RCMP at 25%, fire at 16%, and recreation at 13%, followed by roads at 10% and grants at 7%. These 5 services make up 71% of services funded through taxation. On the far right column is the proposed municipal rates for 2015. This is the 2014 and 2015 mill rate compared. They are compared to the 2014 mill rates. Nearly all of them have gone down by approximately 1 point in 2015. The reason the mill rates have gone down is because the assessments have gone up. The mill rate is only a multiplier of the assessed value to arrive at a dollar figure. You will note the capped rates have stayed the same. So for 2015, we're proposing the residential class a mill rate of 7.37660. For utilities, it's capped at 40. For major industrial, it's 50.13506. Major industrial capped at 27.5. And our second class that's capped under major industrial is 22.5. Light industrial is 30.49740. Business is proposed at 25.77710. And nonprofit recreation class is 4.81391. To calculate the impact to a property owner of the recommended mill rate increase, one needs to compare the 2014 general levy to the amount calculated this year. The 2014 general levy can be found on the 2014 property tax notice as shown here. Viewers should note that we collect taxes on behalf of other jurisdictions and their levies are included in the same property tax notice. Those jurisdictions are the Ministry of Education for Schools, the Northwest Regional Hospital District, the Skeena Queen Charlotte Regional District, the British Columbia Assessment Authority, and the Municipal Finance Authority. Each of those jurisdictions sets their own rates and communicates them to the city for placement on the tax notice and collection remittance to those agencies. So as mentioned previously, to compare, one needs to take the 2014 general residential rate, or if you have a business, the general business rate. And it is shown up here. I'm going to use the, for those at home, I don't believe you can see the pointer, but it is circled. And then you use this formula. Formula to calculate the general levy is on this slide. Take 2015's assessed value divided by 1,000 times the appropriate mill rate. This is the municipal levy for 2015. You compare this to the 2014 general levy. We have provided the effect to a homeowner with an average assessed value in both 2014 and 2015. Note, this is before the homeowner grant is claimed. In 2014, a homeowner with an average assessed value of $196,000 paid $1,652 in municipal tax. In 2015, a homeowner with an average assessed value of $229,000 can expect to pay, with the proposed residential mill rate, $1,689 in municipal tax. This is $37 more for the year, or 10 cents more per day. This slide compares the projected daily cost for the average homeowner in 2015, after the application of the homeowner grant. For example, every day a homeowner, or family of, will pay $2.52 per day to access all municipal services except the water, sewer, and garbage utilities. This translates into $1.31 for all protective services, 33 cents for roads, 23 cents for community enhancement grants, 15 cents for airport access, 40 cents for recreation, and 10 cents for transit. 83% of homeowners' assessments in 2015 are valued at $300,000 or less. Therefore, at $300,000 assessed value, a homeowner can expect to pay $3.95 per day for municipal services. Compare this to the taxes paid yearly for a homeowner with an annual salary of $70,000. The taxes paid to the provincial and federal government combined are $13,600 per year, or $37.26 per day. For a family income of $70,000, the taxes would be a little less. However, the daily charge is still much higher than the municipal daily rate. This means the average homeowner making $70,000 salary pays 6.3% of total taxes to the city. We offer a lot of services daily to the community. Compare this to what the average homeowner uses from the provincial and federal government daily. There is no doubt that taxes in Prince Rupert are higher than our neighbors. We offer some services that other communities do not have. For example, airport access. However, there is a legislative reason for why taxes are higher in Prince Rupert. In 2004, the province of British Columbia capped the major industrial mill rate for all municipalities with a qualifying port property. Therefore, the city can only charge prescribed mill rates on industry that is considered eligible. All of the city's major industrial operating activity qualifies for these capped rates. Unlike residential and business properties, industrial properties assessments decline. Therefore, a cap on a declining assessment results in diminishing tax revenues. This graph shows the impact to the City of Prince Rupert other rate-paying classes from 2004, when the tax caps were introduced, through to 2014. You can see on the yellow line where new investment offers a spike of new taxation from major industry, but declines afterwards as assessed values decline. The red line is the residential tax revenue, and the green line is the business tax revenue. The residential burden has increased from $4.7 million to $6.6 million in 10 years. The business burden has increased from $3.2 million to $4.3 million. Major industrial tax revenue has declined from $4.5 million to $2.8 million. There are 2 new industries and an expansion of the coal terminal in this time frame. Staff and council have worked this year to educate the province of the impacts to our community of their legislation. It is expected that changes to the proposed mill rates are likely, given it is tied to assessed values. BC Assessment will release their revised roll March 31st, which will take into account any appeals to assessed value. Any reductions to assessed values may impact the proposed mill rates. The provincial government offers residents the homeowner grant and a tax deferral program. These programs are available to reduce municipal taxes paid and defer the tax payment through a loan. Please contact City Hall for details of each program. We would like to take this opportunity to begin a community discussion regarding asset replacement and reserves. The city currently doesn't have a policy in place to save for asset replacement. This is of concern given that the federal and provincial governments are now requiring not just a plan for asset management, but the actual funding of it. This helps a community qualify for grants because it shows funding of the city's portion of the 1/3 contribution in accordance with their granting programs and is a plan to save for replacement of that asset. Best practice is to fund depreciation of assets. We are not in a position to afford funding amortization just yet, but something is better than nothing. Many communities have now implemented a 2% mill rate increase annually to move into reserves. This amount is perpetual. It's a separate line item on the tax bill. A reserve policy such as this shows commitment by the community to save for asset replacement. Our community has a $288 million infrastructure deficit. It is with this understanding and the knowledge that to qualify for government grants, a policy needs to be in place and in action that staff recommend Council consider enacting a reserve policy for a 2% mill rate increase perpetually. A constant percentage is predictable for taxpayers and will begin to replenish the reserves we are using now and continue to grow for the years we need to replace our infrastructure. The city could request local industry subject to the tax cap to contribute, and Legacy Inc., the city's wholly owned subsidiary company, could be utilized to augment the reserve funds through dividends to the city. The establishment of reserves also minimizes the amounts of loans we will need in the future to fund replacements. This idea is introduced solely for engagement with the community during the year. Alternate considerations are welcome. Thank you, Mayor and Council, and to the community for listening.
Okay, so we'll move on to, thank you, Ms. Baumann. We'll move on to 4B. So this is an opportunity for the public to come and comment. Just before that, I'm just going to read out a quick statement. And before I read out the statement, I just want everyone to know that we're going to be initiating more regular monthly get-together with the community to be able to air your concerns and have more of a regular dialogue with us. But tonight is about commenting on the budget and any questions or concerns you have about the budget. So I just want to encourage everyone to keep their questions about the budget tonight. And then if there are other issues that people want to talk about, we're going to be initiating a monthly dialogue with the community so that we'll have a regular place for people to be able to air and share their concerns. So that being said, I'll just read this out quickly. So the chairperson will recognize only individuals who present themselves on the speakers list, and I'm not sure if there's actually a speakers list tonight, so we'll just do one at a time. Prior to speaking, please provide your full name and be prepared to spell your surname for the corporate administrator. Please also provide your residential or business address. Should you wish to read from a prepared statement, the city would appreciate receiving a copy for reference purposes by the corporate administrator. Members of council may, if they so wish, ask questions of you following your presentation. Please note that this is not a question period at which a debate takes place. City Council will not provide any comments on issues raised, but will be in attendance to listen to the comments presented. Should no additional speakers present themselves, the chair will call 3 times for anyone else to speak to the matter, and if no one else comes forward, the public hearing will be adjourned. After the hearing has adjourned, the council may, without further notice, give whatever effect council believes proper to the representations made at this hearing. So that being said, I'd like to call anyone who wishes to come speak to the mic, which is right there, to ask any questions regarding this year's budget. Okay, I will call a second time if anybody would like to come to the mic to speak about the budget. Is there anybody? Oh, okay, great.
I'm an offer at Lanarview, Mashu. I'm not the speaker, but it's okay. Anyway, every year, the taxes keep going up all the time. But we have, in First Rupert, we pretty well one of the highest, like you said, higher than the neighbors. And we're lucky that we got the First Nation that take over all the houses, otherwise they'll be, most of them, they'll be half empty. And the sell signs that the people complain because the real estate only keeps the signs for 3 months and then they take it off. Otherwise, there'll be sell signs everywhere. We after, I mean, me anyway, and quite a few of us that ready to retire, everywhere else the taxes are not cheaper to live. So pretty soon we lose half the population there. The reason they don't move out because they can't sell the house. You know, and the city, the property taxes keep going up. We might as well go to other city. So if we want that, I don't think so. You know, I'm against any increase at all. But anyway, we're losing people already. I'm a self-employed too, but every time I fix somebody else's house is because they want to sell it. And we've been that for quite a few years again. We hope, you know, LNG comes and will save us, but otherwise we're gonna destroy the city. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. Gina Garon, 1157 Ambrose Avenue. In regards to energy costs that are increasing 35,000, I'm just wondering if there's any measures in place to reduce our energy costs and what those might be. I would like to see that happen before you increase those. And staffing, succession planning, and increase in needs, what does that mean?
Ms. Baumann, can I refer this question to you?
Sure. With regards to staffing succession, we have one of our finance managers will be leaving, and so in order to transition for about half of the year, we will have somebody hopefully in place. It's only a budget. We don't know whether we're going to be able to get that person in the door before it actually this individual retires. But that's where that one pretty much comes from. There's also a GIS system, which if any of the people that came here today would have seen in the front foyer. We've implemented a GIS, which we were able to purchase through a grant the province provided. This GIS system will also need to be maintained, and half of the projected budget increase there for staff succession and staffing needs is also for an individual to be available and populating and constantly updating that GIS system. I'm sorry, Ms. Garon, I believe there was a second part of your question.
The question was about energy costs.
Thank you. With respect to energy costs, we obviously are always trying to reduce everything that we can. We changed the lights for the street lights to LED in order to reduce our costs with respect to lights and electricity. There's also, we replaced the boiler in the pool this past year, which makes it more energy efficient. We're always trying to find new ways to replace some of our aging assets that are heavy energy consumers. And with respect to the 35,000 itself, we know that energy increases happen every single year. As we understand that BC Hydro has also gone and requested another increase to their rates. But even though fuel has gone down recently, actually this past weekend, I believe it just went up a little bit again, we can't expect that the rates are going to be less than they were last year. And so from a budget perspective, we are being conservative, and we are projecting that fuel increases may occur this year.
Other speakers?
Evening, Barbara, Barbara Cool, 1085 Ambrose Avenue. I'm just going to ask a question about this 2% annual increase that's being recommended by the staff. Does that mean that the mill rate would be, if we use the current mill rate of 8 point whatever it is, that you would be looking at a mill rate of 10 point, or is it 2% of the 7 or 8%?
That's correct. It would be 2% of whatever that rate was.
2% of the 7%.
Exactly.
Okay, I just want to be clear on that. Thank you.
Thank you. And also just to reiterate that this year is a recommendation just to explore the option to the public. It's not something we're implementing this year in the budget, but we do know that in the future, even if we did replace, for example, let's say we got a grant and replaced both of our bridges and they were brand new, 50 years from now, those bridges are going to have to get replaced again. And so we're going to have to continually making sure that all of our assets are being put away for future time. And right now we're in a $288 million infrastructure deficit, particularly because asset management wasn't part of the plan. So that's kind of what the proposal is about, but it's just to explore the option. It's nothing we would put on to the residents this year, and we'd like to have that conversation throughout the year and also request additional alternatives to how we could start managing our assets better. Other questions?
Would it be possible to take the money from the legacy for the GIS system, as that is, the purpose of that was for the growth that we're expecting? So would it be appropriate to take those funds out of the legacy fund to cover that cost?
That's definitely something we've been exploring. Just to give people background here, Legacy Incorporated is a company that we formed that is essentially to create a fund for the future of Prince Rupert and also a fund for our infrastructure needs. And so part of that is also exploring making sure that we use Legacy to help us with this project phase of Prince Rupert. With all the extra demand on us, it's really difficult for us to staff and resource planning and engineering work and EA, environmental assessment work. And so part of the process is us looking at how do we use some of those funds to help our staff actually be able to plan and prepare for this growth. So this is a definitely great point, Ms. Garon, and I think we'll take that under advisement. Other questions?
I would just like to add, Mr. Mayor, that GIS is not necessarily just in respect to major projects. GIS is something that will be with us from now onwards through the future, and considering it is a normal operating environment for us, we should not be using other funds that we might be needing for infrastructure necessarily to augment just our operating costs consistently throughout the 20, 30, 40 years to come, especially if that money does run out.
So just so the public's aware, just to reiterate on that, so what we've done is the operating budget is designed as if there is no projects, as if we're just continuing on business as usual, the core services, all those types of things. On the other hand, there is a major potential boom time coming for Prince Rupert, which is taxing us at a whole new level. And so we're proposing keeping the operating budget a certain way. So anything going into the operating budget are things that are going to happen regardless if LNG comes or doesn't come. But the legacy fund, some of that money would be used to help fund things specifically related around preparing for LNG and getting staff around LNG and things like that. And so we're separating the two so that we're not mixing those lines, and that it's very clear to the public that there's two separate things happening here. And if LNG does go ahead, then we're in a better opportunity then to re-explore how we move forward as a community. But for now, we need to be moving very quickly around these projects. Our staff are at limited resources at the moment, And so we're trying to take the burden off the taxpayer by using legacy in a short-term manner to help prepare for the growth, but keeping the operating budget as a separate thing from that. So that's kind of what the logic is around those two, and it's giving us some flexibility and taking pressure off the taxpayer. Okay, so other questions? Okay, I'll call a second time. Is there anybody else from the audience that'd like to come ask a question? Okay, I'll call a third and final time.
Your Worship, is it possible to hand a mic around? I know that the staff of the PAC used to have a wireless mic, and maybe somebody would feel more comfortable.
Sure. Is there anybody in the audience that would like a mic delivered to them so they can ask a question? Anybody at all? Okay, I don't see anyone, so I'll give one last opportunity if anybody would like to come to the mic and ask a question about the budget, just so that we give ample opportunity. I knew there would be somebody else.
Barbara Cool again. I don't know if this is the time to ask this question, but I'm just wondering, with the Legacy Corporation, we know that we are assuming that the money has come to the city, the first $7 million. And I just wonder, is that money being invested, and is there some money we can be accessing it from the interest? Hopefully that would be the investment.
Ms. Baumann, would you like to comment on where we're at with that?
Yes, we did receive the amount in Legacy Inc., and it has been invested in a GIC for 6 months.
Does that answer your question, or do you have some more specifics you're looking for?
Okay, well, I think, I just think I'm probably not the only one just looking for more information about Legacy and how that is going to be able to help us, and where the accounting is for that, just to have a little bit more information about that. Because I think, I did read through this last night online, and I see that there are plans to spend some of this money in the next, in the next 6 months, actually. So I guess I just leave it there. I just will be looking for more information about that as time goes along, because obviously it is a big opportunity, and to see the tax load reduced for the residential homeowner.
Sure, and you know what, I'll give you a little bit more details right now. So we, as a city, we obviously collect taxes and things like that. At the same time, now that we have Legacy, we're able to do commercial arrangements with different companies. A lot of it is like, different service agreements. If we're going to be working with LNG, we're able to collect income through that means. So we've made a deal, and everybody knows that we've made a deal for a 2-year leasing arrangement with Exxon on Lot 444 for $18 million. We've gotten an initial payment and another payments to come. So what's happening is Legacy is going to be able to collect income for the city. You can read the incorporation documents on the city's website, so you can see just the checks and balances that are in the company itself, that there's no any funny business happening with that, that it's very checked and balances. Legal's really looked right through it, so there's nothing to be a concern about in that respect. And so where we're at is, we know that we're going to put a certain amount away for infrastructure development. For example, our water dam is kind of in a failing state. We need to put money away for that. We need to replace the lines. We need to build a road up to Woodworth Dam. The entire project estimated cost is about $12 million. We've put grant applications in and things like that. We also know the roads in our community are in a certain condition that I've heard many complaints about, and so Legacy is also going to be able to provide income for repairing that type of infrastructure. But what we're specifically proposing for this budget is that we know that we're going to need extra support for LNG-related development, extra staffing, extra resourcing, so that we can really handle the load as a community without burdening the taxpayer. So some of the initial income that we're making off of LNG-related developments are going to be used to help fund extra staff and things like that for a certain period of time that will have a sunset clause, so that if LNG doesn't come in the end, that we're not using Legacy to fund operational things like that. What we want to do is build up a bank account in Legacy so that the future of our community actually has a fund for the future, and that we're specifically targeting big infrastructure developments because we know, for example, we have 2 bridges that need to get replaced, for example. Those are $18 million, $9 million each. We have the water dam, that's $12 million. We need to do dump cell, that's a $16 million project. If we were to do the entire road network and replace the pipes, and now that we're being mandated to do a wastewater treatment plant, that's a $150 million thing that's being put on the city, and if we get applied for a grant, that's going to be $50 million, and that means we have to twin off all the lines in the town to be sewer and stormwater. And so just doing the road network within the community is a total cost of $66 million. If you're wondering where I'm getting these numbers from, we've commissioned a report from Stantec to do an infrastructure deficit report for the community, so those are where those numbers are coming from. So the point I'm getting at here is that Legacy is really about addressing some very core infrastructure needs that are kind of big money. There's no way the taxpayers are going to be able to pay for $288 million infrastructure development. And so Legacy is giving us an ability to do business arrangements with LNG companies, different other types of arrangements like that, and to be specifically targeting projects that are in infrastructure related. And then we're trying to see if we can get some funds from Legacy in a short-term basis to really help move the community to the next level and really get on top of this growth period. Because if LNG does come, then we got a whole other can of worms. And right now, we really don't have the staff or the resources to handle the magnitude of these projects. And so that's kind of where Legacy is at the moment. It's basically a tool for the city of Prince Rupert. It's got really stern checks and balances in place. It's something that we're using as a flexibility piece, and it's going to really help us over the long haul address key infrastructure targets while being able to keep the operating budget at a certain level. Now, if LNG comes, we all know that's the potential of reducing residential taxes and commercial taxes, and so we are definitely wanting to attract that type of investment so that we can, at one point, hopefully really be able to bring down the residential taxes. But at the moment, we're just going to operate conservatively, optimistically, but also very smartly by using Legacy and keeping the operation budget in a certain direction as well. Does that bring more clarity to the whole picture for you at all? Or because I think that's maybe more what you're getting at as well?
Right.
Okay.
Thanks very much,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
No problem. Okay, is there other questions? Absolutely.
I've been here just for a short time, Mr. Mayor, and I've heard you say twice now that the 2 bridges in town need to be replaced. Have you looked at an alternative to doing away with the bridges, period? Have you looked around outside the box, so to speak, instead of saying that the bridges need to be replaced and therefore the taxpayer is going to pick this up? Can we not have an alternative to look at, doing away with the bridges and building another access road to those 2 areas of town?
Those are absolutely great points, and I'm not saying that we're want to put that on the taxpayer. We've actually applied for grants for the bridges specifically, only because the bridges are there now and they are what people are using. But I'm not sure about where engineering's at around the bridges. I don't know if Ms. Baumann, can you speak to that at all? Or?
We are looking at alternatives to remove the bridges, the necessity of the bridges, but at the moment, that's not something that we've been able to go forth with. There is land that we might need to utilize that is owned by other people. We still need to explore those options. So we're not saying that we need to replace the bridges right now. It is definitely something that we are considering as a alternative routing.
Does that answer your question?
No, it doesn't, because I'm a taxpayer. All I'm really interested in is, I thought I voted in a council that was going to keep our taxes at the primary and think about them instead of raising them up every time we have a budget. I would like to see our council really stress at keeping our taxes down, not keep jacking them up. In other words, let's look outside the box and find that money within our operating budget, our operating system, instead of, like I say, jacking up our taxes. I think that's what I came to say and what I like to listen to, but I'm not hearing it. I'm just hearing thinking inside the box, saying we have to replace this, we have to replace that, and it's our taxes that it's going to pay for that. Thank you.
Councillor Cunningham, would you like to address that?
In regards to that question, I think the city, before they start replacing anything, will look at alternates. You know, it's not, we're talking about replacing stuff, but I think at the end of the day, before we replace anything, we will be looking at alternative methods of doing things. Like, you know, there's the idea of going down by Hayes Petro Station there, excuse the ad, and coming back up, you know, things like that. You know, you'd have to look at the cost of pushing the road through there versus replacing the bridge. If it's only $1 million to put the road in instead of $9 million to replace the bridge, I'm damn sure the city's going to look at the lesser of the two. These are things that are projected in the future that engineering has told us has to be done. As we sit here as a new council, I'm quite sure as the time comes and things come up, we're not going to say, okay, just replace it for $9 million or $10 million when there's a $1 million alternative to do it. Whether it's a road that bypasses and adds 3-4 blocks to a route, but saves that much money. And I'm quite sure when the time comes, engineering will be looking at other methods. You know, it's easy to say we're going to replace that or replace this, but when the time comes and the lifespan of that bridge or road is past its due, which a lot of our roads are, I'm quite sure we'll be looking at every way. We're not just going to go out there and spend $9 million when $1 million might do it. It's like any household in town, if you can fix something for $100 instead of $1,000, and it's a good fix, I think you're going to do it.
Just your comment on the taxes. I don't believe any of us actually ran either to want to raise taxes because it's not really something fun to do. But we do need to reiterate to the public that coming into this situation 3 months in now, all of us, is that what we've really learned quickly is that this town is severely capped by the provincial tax cap on our industries. The fact that we can't regulate taxation around industries, we have 0 major industry that actually falls under the City of Prince Rupert's mill rate. So what happens is you have initial investment, for example, the pellet plant, which gives us a spike, but immediately that depreciates and we lose money off it already. And so we aren't able to collect our full revenue share from the industries that are all around us. This isn't a port thing, is what I really want people to understand. The port isn't doing this. It's a provincially legislated cap on marine export industries, regardless if they're on port land or if they're on city land. So this is something that would fall into a certain category by the province. Unfortunately, every single industry we have falls under this cap, which is $22.50 per $1,000, and it is a severely limiting ability for us to collect the taxes we need from that. This is the #1 reason why the commercial and residential tax rates have increased in this community. What we're doing is we're being very proactive, and we're working with the ministries to work with a different solution around the caps. One of the things we propose is that the caps might be better off implemented for a 7-year period. The reason why they were created in the first place was so that we could have a competitive industry in BC. And also, in the time they were implemented, there was no port, and the port actually refers to those days as the dark days. And now we actually have a much more developed port. And so what we're considering is, we want to say to the government, look, we want to work with you guys. We're trying to be proactive here, but unfortunately, this method is actually not sustainable for us. It's forcing us to actually have a less competitive small business tax rate, and so people don't want to invest for businesses here, and then residents have to pay the price. And so it's not a choice that we're trying to make, saying, hey, we just want to do this. It's actually something that right now, the way the systems work, what we've been legislatively mandated, is just not working for this community. So what we're trying to do is get the province to say, okay, we will allow a cap for 7 years so that the industry can remain competitive for 7 years, but after 7 years, the cap should come off, and that industry should then fall under the City of Prince Rupert's mill rate, and then we would be able to then collect full taxation from those industries. And if that were to happen, I can guarantee you residential taxes will go down, because that is what is limiting us. When we had the pulp mill at the time, that didn't fall under that. There actually was no caps before 2004, so we had the ability to collect taxes and things like that. So where we're at right now is we're being very proactive and trying to, like you said, think outside the box. We're not here with the blinders on saying we just have to replace bridges, we just have to do these things. You know, there's so much infrastructure that needs to be replaced. It's not that we're going to be able to tackle it all. We are definitely going to be thinking of other solutions. But right now, our primary thing we're thinking about is how do we bring in extra revenue to this community, and how do we lower the burden on the tax on the residential taxes. And so this is a conversation that every council before myself has had. I'm sure Ms. Guerin can tell you all about her experiences with the previous councils. And so it's something that we're definitely working towards. But in the meantime, the only ability we have to change the operating budget is through taxation. And unfortunately, you know, this is the reality of the situation. And, you know, there are just financial things we have to adhere to. And so, I mean, again, this is recommendations from staff. So council hasn't made any decisions yet around this. And we're definitely trying to figure out how to get out of this capped box. And we're hoping to make some leeway this year. The previous council before me have made some good strides and have opened some new doors, and we really thank them for that work. So that's kind of what the situation is. And I know that doesn't answer your questions the way you want. I know for sure there's many of us would love to just not raise taxes, but unfortunately at this moment it is really our only means to collect income. And so what we're trying to do is make sure that we can attract at least one LNG investment decision, because that type of investment, I mean, the smallest investment's $11 billion. And just to give you some perspective, I believe that the Rio Tinto Alcan, which is a $4.9 billion project out of Kitimat, is currently the largest project in BC. And so, I mean, one LNG would be double that investment. And so that type of revenue coming in would really help the community in terms of taxation and those types of things. So we're being proactive and being part of the solution around LNG, and working with all levels of government and our regional partners in the First Nations to really make something work here. And so we're being proactive is what I'm getting at. But that's kind of where we're at. So I know that doesn't probably answer the question that you really want to hear, but that's as best as I can answer it at this moment.
I just want to thank you for the opportunity of setting this up tonight. It really is disappointing that people aren't here tonight to partake in this, so don't give up hope. So. It's a good first start. The RCMP building, are you putting in the budget, are you starting from scratch again to look at this, like hiring an architect again? Are you going to build on what was already looked at before, or is there more money in the budget to looking at this for this year's budget?
Ms. Baumann, I'm going to refer that question to you.
We're basically going to be building on what was provided before. We're in discussion with the previous contractor who had come up and done the site investigations, that sort of thing. And we're getting a report to bring us up to speed on everything that was left back in 2012, I believe. And we will be going forward from there.
So are you putting money in the budget this year to spend further monies on architects and engineering companies?
No, it's not in the budget just yet.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, other questions? I'll call one last final time if anybody would like to come to the mic and have any questions for us.
I'll put one more bug in for landfill. I'm an advocate for keeping things out of the landfill, and previous councils have not come forth to try to get this to happen. Recycling needs to be stepped up, and I would hope that this council in the near future would try to pull these two agencies together in order to work cohesively together to try to mitigate what goes into that dump and what can be recycled, because we are way behind. The recycling facility that was just instituted with a 24-hour, whatever you want to call it, it's an embarrassment to the community. I think it should be shut down because it's just not helping the situation. The bins are too small. The staff can't even look after what's there. So I would hope that the City of Prince Rupert would work with the Regional District and try to come to some kind of agreement to either get both those facilities under one umbrella. So I'll leave you guys with that thought. Thanks.
Thank you. And I'll just give everybody a quick update actually while we're here on that, specifically about the recycling thing. So I'm part of the regional Skeena Queen Charlotte Regional District, and one of the proposals is to close that 24-hour recycling facility during the day when the operation is open, and to make it an after-hours type of facility, so it's not open all the time. And also that they're planning on having additional staff on the Sunday to be able to keep on track with the cleanup and things like that. So they're aware of the issue, and those solutions are coming. Just on the topic of recycling, I absolutely agree. I'm definitely an advocate of keeping things out of the landfill. The issue right now is that with LNG, the industrial waste coming from LNG is going to be so significant that we're actually going to require another cell at the landfill. And so, as much as I definitely agree with that particular thing, and as a residential and a commercial thing, we should definitely be pursuing more aggressively keeping things out of the landfill. Industrially wise, around LNG, the waste is so immense that we're just not going to be able to handle it with the current capacity. And so, there are other things that can be implemented. For example, I found out recently we're not able to recycle really large mega printers here, because only in Vancouver do they process those types of things, so maybe there's some programs we can implement around collectively acquiring types of recycling goods into a container, and when they're full, we ship it all down and have partnerships. And so these are definitely things on the radar. These aren't necessarily budgetary items, but while that was there, I just thought I'd quickly update on that. But yeah, the landfill is an industrial waste issue, and it's going to require significant investment if LNG is to go through, and we estimate that cost to be around $16 million. Yeah, Councillor Thorkelson.
I just wanted to say one thing, and that is, if you want your taxes to go down, we all like our taxes to go down, we're not going to do it by cutting city services any further. Since the pulp mill went down, there's not a city council that hasn't tried to reduce the budget every year. And if you look at a 1%, 1.5%, or a 2% increase, it really just covers the cost of living that the city has to meet. The same as everyone in your families has to meet a cost of living. And so we have a chance now to do two things. We have a chance to, as the mayor was talking about, is to politically try to get the provincial and federal governments to take off the port cap or change the port cap. Because we need to, Kitimat doesn't have a port cap. So that's why they can charge Alcan a decent heavy industrial rate. We won't be able to do that with our LNG companies because they will be on port land, except for our own LNG company. If we have our own LNG company, if Exxon actually goes in the harbor, we'll be able to tax them at a rate that will not be capped. So you should contact your MLA and try to write a letter to the Minister of Finance, provincially and federally, and tell them you think it's unfair that the provincial and federal governments are downloading responsibilities onto the municipal governments without providing the funding for us to meet those responsibilities. And I guess the liquid sewage wastewater plant, which is something that we need, but is now being legislated as a requirement, is something, and we're not going to get any extra money for that. We're going to have to take some, we will likely get some money in grants from the provincial and federal government. But they are matching grants, and so we will have to take money out of our pockets in order to pay for that. And that is a legislated requirement. So, we need to also, in my opinion, as a city and as a community, and maybe even as an entire Northwest region, also ask the provincial government to have a revenue sharing arrangement like they do in different other parts of British Columbia, such as the Columbia Treaty, down in the Kootenay area, the Peace River Agreement in the Peace River area. They all have names, and I just can't remember what their names are, but they have revenue sharing arrangements. And we have united with Terrace, Kitimat, Smithers. Is Smithers part of it?
I believe
Terrace,
so.
Kitimat, maybe Smithers, Stewart, to ask for a resource sharing agreement with all of the new industrial activities that are taking place outside municipal boundaries that we can't tax. So Red Chris mines, all the mines that are taking place, all of those workers, some of those workers will be locating in our areas, they may be paying residential taxes, but they're not paying, but the mines are not paying taxes to municipalities. So there needs to be a resource sharing agreement. Provincial government keeps downloading the requirements, and the feds download the requirements onto us. And we should, as a municipality, not have to continually take money out of residential tax pockets and have to meet federal and provincial requirements. I just want to say that all of us have had, most of us have had lowered taxes from the feds and the province. That's what the conservative governments have done, have been lowering taxes. But the amount of taxes that have been lowered for the middle class has probably more than made up by the increases that the municipalities have had to pay for. And we have no other way of raising taxes because we can't increase taxes on our industrial. We can only increase them on commercial and residential. And that is a real problem. So I don't think that, and this isn't, not trying to be a lecture, I've been on council now for all these years, and it's not that I enjoy paying, I pay our taxes, and I don't enjoy having to pay more, but I don't know where to cut. And I've been on councils long enough to see that every year we have this discussion, but there is something now that perhaps we can do, because there is a movement within northern BC to have the government resource share, and there's a movement all throughout the province to try to get the caps removed, or at least the caps increased so that we get more money from port revenue. And if people could write their government, if 20 people from Prince Rupert wrote, that would be 20 more letters than they're having right now, and it might get them to really consider something rather than just ourselves going to talk and meet with the minister. They expect it from us, but it would be nice if they could see that this is a movement from residents of Prince Rupert, federal and provincial voters, as well as just from the whiners on your city council. So I just want to address that, and I'm sorry if I'm sounding like a lecture, but I wish there was something more we could do, but I haven't figured it out, and legacy is a good thing for us, and we will receive more taxes if LNG goes ahead. But if LNG doesn't go ahead, we still have those bridges are going to fall down sooner or later. The water system's going to go. The sewer is going to need replacing. Our roads, as everybody knows, are somebody wrote and said that they had an axle problem because of our potholes. Probably that's right. Not admitting liability. That could also not be right. Maybe they hit a curb. But anyway, those things are there, and they're not going to get any better unless we can access some industrial taxes. So that's all I wanted to say, Your Worship. This needs to be a discussion, and I find this a hard thing to have a discussion with, and I'd like to have a discussion, because if other people had some ideas about how to save money, that would be good, but we're not going to save much. And we got this RCMP building, another requirement, and I'd like to say that the requirement, Your Worship, some of the requirements for the RCMP building are ridiculous. You can't build one beside something where you can take a pot shot. So you can't build beside the Highliner, because somebody can sit up there with a rifle and take pot shots. You can't have parking. Remember that, ex-Councillor Garon? You can't have parking underneath the police station because somebody might put a bomb in there and blow up the police station. There's so many things that we couldn't do when we looked at all the sites. And those are regulations, not by ourselves, but those are regulations. A guy came from Ottawa to tell us about that. All the way out from Ottawa to tell us about those, and there's more. Those are the two that just made me roll my eyes, but there was others as well. So, I like to say that it's good if public hears, but they also got to hear some of the problems that City Council hears and faces when we're trying to make these decisions. So thank you very much. I'm sorry, I might sound like I'm trying to lecture. I'm not. I'm trying to have a conversation. And I would like, I meant no respect to anybody in the room, because I know we're all trying to make this community some place that we all want to live and can afford to live.
Thank you, Councillor Thorkelson, and all of those are absolutely valid, good points. And I just want to reiterate that it's not all doom and gloom either. Tomorrow is our 105th birthday. I was trying to make a joke there. But it is, and that's how old our town is, right? It's 105 years old, and a lot of the initial developments happened a long time ago, and those are aging now. Just to reiterate just a couple points that Councillor Thorkelson made. She's referring to what's called the Resource Benefits Alliance, which is a revenue sharing agreement that's coming into play right now. It hasn't fully formed yet, and what that is about targeting the anywhere between $18 to $32 billion of new revenue that's going to come to BC with some of these new projects coming online, and that's an amalgamation of LNG developments, mining, all types of things that are happening up here in the north, west particularly. And so this RBA alliance, or RBA, is an alliance of communities and regional districts up the line that are within this pocket. So the point of the agreement is to mimic some other places that have done this, but at another level. And so what it would enable us to do is actually be able to take money from that new revenue that the province is going to require and distribute it specifically for upgrading infrastructure and things like that. So that's something that's coming online, and hopefully by the end of this year will be solidified, and we've joined in on that memorandum of understanding. So that's something we're trying to be proactive about. And just so you all know too, Councillor Thorkelson is correct when she says there is absolutely nothing else we can do in the city to become any leaner than we are. We literally have an engineer that's doing 4 jobs in one. we are really actually at the point where we are maintaining the city at a slimmed, lean manner. So it's not that we haven't looked at that particular piece either. And so, yeah, and so these are the realities of our community. And this council, I know, is up for the task to help with the solutions. And we all just want this community to know that we understand the concerns on the ground. You know, we heard it all the time. The previous councils have heard it. And we are going to do absolutely everything in our power to ensure that we're going to get this community on the right track, get the revenue we need, and really, really make sure that we make it work for everybody. So I just want everyone to understand that we are working day and night to ensure that this community is going to be successful, and that one day your residential taxes are not going to continue to go up, and that's why we're trying to be a good host city for LNG, because that's going to be one way of alleviating that. So that being said, is there any other questions that the public would like to ask?
It's a good segue to my last point. I have to keep up with Ms. Caron. And I also want to just express my thanks for your opening this for public discussion. I think that's really great thing. I remember that in December, I think it was Ms. Caron who made a motion to consider increasing the stipend or the salary of the councillors and the mayor. And it was decided at that time, as I recall, to put that over to budget consideration time and to bring that up again. I don't believe that I read anything in the document here about it, so I just wondered if that had come up for discussion, and if not, then I'm wondering where that is, because I do think that I know you're all working very hard, and I think it is a very key, very important time in the history of the city, and very much to do. So I think that it should be on the table if it isn't consideration of that. Thank you.
Councillor Cunningham?
We've looked at that, but at the time, you know, I'd love a raise, but, you know, councillors are definitely out the window. We can't afford to pay any more. I'd like to see a full-time mayor, and at the time I brought it up in, I believe, January about it, and it was quite the subject around town, and there was a lot of misrepresentation about what it was going to be, $100,000 and things like this. At the time, if we brought the mayor's salary up to what it was for a full-time mayor before, it was going to be another $17,000, bring it up to 60. It's being discussed, but at the moment, I don't believe it's a budget item. And, you know, if the money is there, I'd love to see a full-time mayor. He is working full-time right now. He's quit his other job, and it's probably put a financial burden on him to a certain degree, but it's just something we'll have to address in the near future. We're going to probably look at whatever we can look at to find a few more dollars here or there for it, but, you know, there's a lot of things we could find more dollars for. I think at the end of the day, you know, whatever we look at, the big problem this city has, and we never even touched on the berth corridor, is Mar Terminals is capped at 11.5. The port's capped at 22.5. Our local businesses are paying more than that. Now, what's wrong with this picture? You have light and heavy industry, or light industry is paying more than the port cap. It's the province that has to come to the plate. They brought all this attention to Prince Rupert with LNG. We've seen our values of houses go up. We've seen our assessments go up. Nothing's changed. And I would love to see LNG come, but I've been in town long enough that we've seen promise after promise. The mill's going to start. Potash is coming. Everything's coming. We have to sustain this town from within ourselves and getting the province to change those caps so it's more realistic. The federal government wants to have this gateway to the Pacific. Well, maybe the federal government should start giving the gateway to the Pacific a few dollars instead of taking it all from the port and not giving anything back to us. It's you know, it's great that the port's here. It's supplying some really good paying jobs and everything, but at the same time, You know, any port city has this problem. Vancouver, Nanaimo, it doesn't matter where you go in the province, the ports are a problem because they're capped. And it's the province, not the port. And it took me a while to understand that. I was always picking on the port, but it's not the port, it's actual province. And, you know, the birth corridor, you know, that's an international company. They're getting a tax break. I, like the mayor and other people on this council, would like to see those caps terminated after they've had a fair advantage to get started in that. Yeah, it's a big investment to start a port and things like that, but at what point does the community have to suffer for those tax breaks? And this community has suffered long enough. I really think it's time for the province and the feds to step up to the plate and say, yeah, okay, the little town of Prince Rupert needs some help. That's my attitude.
And that's something I'm actively working on as well. Okay, so is there any other questions out there? I'll ask again because we've noticed that there is somebody else usually. Anybody else that would like to come and share the... Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to thank you, the City Council, for organizing this, especially the Libre. And I heard like we have to raise the taxes every year, like people opposing and some like in favor of the to raise the taxes if we want the services. So I don't mind paying the more taxes if we want the more services. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions from the audience? One final time. Okay, so we'll adjourn the public question period through the microphone, and I just wanted to ask, not ask, but reiterate that I hope that we've brought some more clarity to our position and our situation here at the city for the public, and I hope that you're also getting the sense that we're absolutely being very proactive and innovative around how we're going to address the multitudes of issues our community faces, and that actually I feel quite optimistic about how we're going about this process. We've got a great team. Council has really come together. Our staff is amazing. The morale is up. There's an excitement in this community. We just launched a new marina that we announced on Saturday that will potentially bring in new revenue for the community and be able to help attract new people coming to our community through vessel traffic, which is roughly 1,200 vessels a year, that we're missing those opportunities. We're focusing on things like our waterfront. We're focusing on things like downtown revitalization. We're focusing on trying to get the caps of the port off. And we are on a daily conversation around things like our airport and all those types of things. And so I want everybody to know that we are absolutely being proactive in every facet of this community, from recreation to transit to you name it, and we really do have a deep understanding of what our needs are, and we've done an inventory of our infrastructure. We've got a report by KPMG that has shown what the costs of LNG are going to be on our community, so we've been able to better project those costs, and now the next step is we're going to really be proactive in getting feedback from the community and really engaging the town, because this is a team effort, and we want to build a community team, and we believe we're going to be successful in that endeavor. So I just want people to understand that, and that you're getting the sense that we're not just doing these things because we're not thinking about other alternatives, is that we are actually being very diligent and proactive. That being said, we have some new thing we want to do this time, and so it's a digital format. And now, just before I begin, Mr. Mandrick, we have a paper copy for those that don't have, and they can submit that where exactly? Okay, so they can come to the stage. Okay, so if you don't have a smartphone on you right now in the audience, or a cell phone that you can text a number to, We have paper copies of this poll we're going to do. So if you'd like to do a paper copy, perhaps we can get one of the staff to come distribute those. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask 4 questions from the audience. And each question will display for approximately 5 minutes. And so you'll be able to vote on these questions. And so what you do is, if you're at home right now listening to this, you can either use your phone or you can go on to a website. And the website should be on your screen right now, pollev.com/cityofpr. So what will happen is you'll see a question come up on the screen. You can also download an app on your phone called Search for Poll Everywhere. And, you know, we're going to be using this more frequently, so, you know, feel free to just download it and have it in your pocket for future engagements. But you don't need the app. You can actually text to a number. So there'll be we're going to do a test poll so to make sure people can get used to it. But so you'll have a question on your screen right now, and it's going to ask you what your favorite color is out of those 3 colors, green, blue, or red. And so what you're going to do is you're going to text City of PR to the number on your screen, so 780-800 56. I lost that number there. 5606, and you're going to get a text back saying that you're part of the poll now. And once you get that text, you'll either answer A, B, or C. Did I explain that correctly? Okay. And so when you're sending A, B, or C, it's going to the question that's right in front of you right now. So those who have a paper copy, you don't need to answer this question. It's a test question. So now it's coming in live data. These are the people using the polling situation. Okay, so certain people have figured out to use it. And we're going to just wait for a second to see how many people are actually engaged with this. 5 minutes. So just bear with us. The more we use this over time, the more people will know how to use it, and the more we'll be able to use it and have more of a flow. Well, it looks like blue's in the lead. I'd be voting green right now, by the way. I'm the underdog here. Okay, we got a lot of people using this. This is great. So one of the reasons why we're implementing this system is because we realize that not everybody wants to go to a mic and say what they feel, because not everybody likes that type of avenue. So we're going to test this out this year and see if these questions work for you. And this will help us also make clear decisions on what the community thinks around certain decisions being made. And yeah, is there anybody out there who are having difficulties using this? Miss Garon? Anybody else that needs some help with that? We have a tech person here to help you. So we're just going to wait for a bit because this is the test question, so we'll just make sure that everybody has a chance. There's people at home right now that are using this clearly, because I don't think there's that many people in the audience that have that much cell phones on them. Oh, green's making a comeback. Let's go green. So everyone's probably getting a sense then of how many people are actually watching this council meeting right now, right? Because there's more numbers on the screen. So this is kind of cool, actually. Oh, here we go. Red and green. Come on, green. There's got to be one more person out there wanting green, right? So I'll just wait one more minute here, because then everyone's tuned in, and then we can ask the actual questions after this. Anybody else in the audience that's having difficulty with this? Just raise your hand. We have a tech person up here who can help you. And you'll notice it won't let you vote twice. It says if you voted once or you already voted. Oh, we just got another blue. Okay. So everyone's got the sense of this. So what we'll do is we'll go to the first question. So the first question is, do you consider a 1.9% increase to the mill rate reasonable? So you're answering A, B, oh, and I think we're supposed to have a C on there. I don't know. No? Okay, yes or no then. Now, if you have a paper copy and you want to fill those out, did we want to collect those right now and get them part of these results? Is that how you want it? Okay, so who has a paper copy in the audience? Maybe just hold your paper up and then we'll just get Mike to maybe collect those possibly and bring them down to Marco. And you want to just maybe add? No, he can't? Okay. Okay. I know that's not as efficient as we'd like it to be, but we wanted to make sure that people who don't have cell phones also have access to the process here. And this process this time will be a little bit slower than, obviously, because we're just using this for the first time, but this is good information for us to see clearly, what people think, that they can vote anonymously and feel comfortable either from their own homes or in the audience that they can say what they feel to the to us, and we can have a better sense. Still got some answers coming in. If it's easier for you, if you want to just maybe say the number rather than input it, or unless you can input it. Oh, perfect. Three yes and two no in addition to this? Okay. So that's 25 and 8. Okay, so we have 25 for A and 8 for B. So that's the first question. So that gives us a good sense of where people are at. Oh, one extra no added in there. Okay, great. So we'll move on to the next question then. So the next question will be, do you agree that the city needs an asset management plan? So do we need to return those surveys? Okay. Oh, you got all the answers. Perfect. Great. Sure, yeah, so the previous question was about adjusting the mill rate by 1.9% to collect the 220,000 that we need as our shortfall. This question is about whether or not we need a plan to manage our assets for the future, and the current proposal that the staff had recommended is a 2% a separate line item on your tax bill as a way to start collecting income for future asset replacements and things like that. But that was just one thought of a larger conversation that we want to have with the community this year, and we're going to create space for that community because we really want to think about what that's going to look like. And so this question is really thinking, do you think we need some sort of plan to manage our assets? Yes. Oh. 5 yeses on paper? Okay. Okay, I'll just wait one more minute here. This is where we need to cue the Jeopardy music. Okay, so it's 29 yeses and 1 no. So we will move on to the next question. Do you support using Legacy Inc. funds to provide the capacity the city needs to plan for major projects? So this is what I was referring to earlier about us having a temporary use around the money we're collecting from Legacy to be able to fund extra staff and resources to handle the LNG operations, to keep them separate from the operating budget. And I also believe there's a delay from the home poll, correct, to the screen? 30-second delay. Yes.
Paper and 1 don't know.
Okay. Okay, so I think that would be 29 yeses and 3 nos. So I think we'll move to the next question and the final question. Do you support a full-time mayor? Oh, and I believe the question's supposed to say, do you support a full-time mayor? Just for the screen references. It's okay.
Mr. Mayor, we also have the answers from the paper. It's 4 yes and 1 no.
Okay. Pardon? No, we're not voting. Thanks for that, though. Okay, I think that's probably everything. So that's 27 to 5 there. Okay, so those are all the questions that we have. And actually that worked rather well, actually. So we will continue to use this method in the future. And once again, I'll just say that from this point forward, we have another public consultation on the 23rd of March at Council Chamber. So it's another chance to come and speak and speak with us. From that point forward, Council then will take the considerations of the public and begin to give direction to staff around what the budget's going to look like. From that point forward, we're going to initiate, most likely starting in April, some sort of monthly informal dialogue session with the community so that there can be a regular place for people to just express their concerns to us. And I will host that personally, and I invite council to attend, but I will definitely be there each time so that we'll figure out some dates and things like that so that there's more accessibility around the conversation because I don't believe this forum is necessarily enough for us to kind of get it out of our systems. So I think we should have that going more regularly. That being said, given that it's the budget meeting, I would recommend a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. Moved by Councillor Kinney. Seconded by Councillor Redhawa. All those in favor? Okay, well, meeting tonight is adjourned. Thank you everybody for attending. I hope that was engaging for you, and I'll stick around on the foyer if anybody has any additional questions that they'd like to talk to more one-on-one basis, and I'm sure some of the councillors may stick around as well. Thank you.